She texted, "Girls' night was amazing. Wish you could have joined." I noticed a man's wallet on the table in her photo. I replied, "Looks fun." Guess who's also here? Later that evening, I walked into the lounge and sat down across from her. The moment she saw me, her smile froze. I'm 30 years old, work in finance, and until 3 months ago, I thought I had my life figured out. Good job, nice apartment in the city, a girlfriend I'd been with for 2 years who I was planning to propose to. Her name was Jessica. She was 28, worked as a marketing consultant, and we'd built what I thought was a solid relationship based on trust and communication. Jessica traveled for work occasionally. Client meetings, conferences, team offsites. I never questioned it. Why would I? She'd send me photos from hotel lobbies, screenshots of boring PowerPoint presentations, selfies with her coworkers. I trusted her completely. Looking back, that trust was the foundation of everything that came after. The night everything changed started innocently enough. It was a Thursday evening in early June. I was working late, finishing up a quarterly report that was due the next morning. Around 8 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Girls' night was amazing. Wish you could have joined." Attached was a photo of a cocktail table at what looked like an upscale lounge, 3 colorful drinks, ambient lighting, the kind of place that charges $20 for a martini. I smiled, happy she was having fun with her friends. Then I zoomed in on the photo to see what she was drinking. That's when I noticed it. On the edge of the table, partially visible in the corner of the frame, was a brown leather wallet. Not a small women's clutch or card holder. A thick, masculine bifold wallet. The kind men carry in their back pockets. My stomach tightened. Maybe it belonged to a waiter. Maybe someone at the next table. Maybe I was being paranoid. But something felt off. Jessica had told me earlier that week she was having a girls' night with her co-workers, Sarah and Michelle. Just the 3 of them, she'd said. Drinks and catching up after a stressful project. I stared at that wallet for a full minute. Then I opened our location sharing. We'd set it up months ago. One of those couple things where you always know where the other person is. Not because we didn't trust each other, but because it felt practical. Safe. I clicked on her profile. The map loaded. She wasn't at some neighborhood bar. She was at the Maritime Lounge, a high-end hotel bar downtown. The same hotel where she'd stayed last month for a work conference. My heart started pounding. I zoomed out on the map and saw something that made my hands go cold. The little blue dot showing my location and her red dot showing hers were in the same building, the same hotel. I'd been working from a co-working space in that exact hotel for the past week because my office was being renovated. I was literally 2 floors below her. Without thinking, I grabbed my laptop, shoved it in my bag, and headed to the elevator. My mind was racing. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe she didn't know I was here. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. I texted back, "Looks fun. Guess who's also here?" 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "What do you mean?" "I'm working in the building. Maritime Hotel. Want to grab a drink?" The dots appeared and disappeared for almost 2 full minutes. Then, oh wow. Small world. I'm actually about to head out though. Rain check. I was already walking into the lounge. It was dimly lit, all dark wood and leather booths. Quiet jazz playing in the background. I scanned the room and spotted her immediately. Corner booth, facing away from the entrance. She wasn't alone. Sitting across from her was a man in his mid-30s, dressed in an expensive suit, leaning forward with his elbows on the table in an intimate posture. They were laughing. Jessica's hand was resting near his on the table, not quite touching, but close. Too close. I walked over slowly, my heart hammering in my chest. When I was about 10 feet away, Jessica must have sensed someone approaching because she turned her head. The moment she saw me, her smile froze. Her face went pale. The man looked up, confused. I sat down in the empty chair at their booth without saying a word. "Jake," Jessica said, her voice strained. "What are you doing here?" "Working," I said calmly. "In this building. I mentioned it to you 3 days ago. Remember?" She blinked rapidly. I forgot." I looked at the man. "Hi, I'm Jake, Jessica's boyfriend." He glanced between us, clearly uncomfortable. "Oh, I'm Drew. We work together." "Drew," I repeated. I looked back at Jessica. "I thought you were having drinks with Sarah and Michelle." "They left early," Jessica said quickly. "Drew was here for a client meeting and we ran into each other, so we decided to catch up." I gestured to the table. Their drinks were both half finished, the atmosphere was clearly intimate, and there was no sign anyone else had been there recently. "Catch up." "Yes," she said defensively. "Is that a crime?" Drew cleared his throat. "I should probably go. Let you two talk." "Stay," I said, still calm. "I'd love to hear about your client meeting." "Which client was it?" Drew hesitated. It was for the Peterson account." I nodded slowly. "And that required an evening meeting at a hotel bar." "Jake, stop," Jessica said sharply. "You're being ridiculous." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table, opening our text conversation. "You sent me a photo from this table 30 minutes ago. You said it was girls' night. You wished I could have joined." I zoomed in on the wallet in the corner of the photo. "Is this yours, Drew?" Drew's face flushed. He looked at Jessica, who had gone completely silent. "I think I should go," Drew said quietly, standing up. "Good idea," I said. He grabbed his wallet from the table, the same brown leather one from the photo, and left quickly without looking back. Jessica and I sat in silence for what felt like an eternity. The jazz music played softly. Other patrons laughed and talked around us. Finally, she spoke. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." Update 1. Jessica took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she wrapped them around her drink. She wouldn't make eye contact. "Drew and I have been working closely on a project," she started. "We've gotten close. As friends. Just friends." "Friends don't lie about who they're with," I said. "I didn't lie. I knew how it would look. I knew you'd overreact. I'm not overreacting. I'm reacting appropriately to my girlfriend lying about who she's spending her evening with at a romantic hotel bar." She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Guilt mixed with defiance. "You're always so controlling. I can't have male friends without you getting jealous." "I've never been controlling," I said quietly. "You have plenty of male friends. What I don't appreciate is being lied to." "I didn't lie. You specifically said you were with Sarah and Michelle. You sent me a photo trying to make it look like a girls' night." "That's a lie." She bit her lip. "Okay, fine. I should have been honest, but nothing happened. We were just talking. In a hotel bar. At night. After lying about it." "Yes," she said firmly. "Is that so hard to believe? That I might want to have a drink with a colleague without my boyfriend interrogating me?" I felt something crack inside me. Not anger exactly. Something colder. "How long has this been going on?" "Nothing is going on." "How long have you been meeting Drew for drinks?" She hesitated. "A few times. Over the past couple months. But it's always been innocent." "And you never mentioned it?" "Because I knew you'd act like this." I pulled out my phone again and opened our shared calendar. "You had a work dinner 2 weeks ago. Was that with Drew?" Silence. "The conference last month, the one at this hotel. Was Drew there?" Her jaw tightened. "Yes, but it was a work conference. There were dozens of people." "Did you spend time alone with him?" "Jake, did you?" "Yes," she snapped. "We had dinner once. As colleagues, that's it." I leaned back in my seat, processing everything. The lies, the secretiveness, the way she was defending him instead of apologizing to me. I think you need to be honest with yourself about what this is. What are you talking about? You're either having an affair or you're heading toward one. Either way, you've been lying to me for months. That's not innocent. That's betrayal. I haven't cheated on you, she said, her voice rising slightly. I've never even kissed him. You're blowing this completely out of proportion. Then why lie? She opened her mouth, then closed it. No answer. I stood up. I'm going home. You can come with me and we can talk about this like adults, or you can stay here. Your choice. I'm not a child, she said coldly. Don't give me ultimatums. Then make a decision. I walked out of the lounge without looking back. My hands were shaking as I got into the elevator. Part of me expected her to follow. She didn't. I went back to the co-working space, grabbed my things, and drove home. Our apartment felt different somehow, like I was seeing it through new eyes. All the photos of us on the walls, the furniture we'd picked out together, the life we'd built. Had it all been based on a lie? Around 11 p.m., Jessica came home. She looked exhausted. I was sitting on the couch with a glass of whiskey, something I rarely did, but tonight felt like an exception. Can we talk? She asked quietly. That's what I've been waiting for. She sat down on the opposite end of the couch, as far from me as possible. I'm sorry I wasn't honest. I should have told you about Drew. Why didn't you? Because I knew you'd make me stop seeing him. I wouldn't have made you do anything. I would have asked you to be honest about it, to set boundaries. Same thing, she muttered. It's not the same thing at all. I set down my glass. Do you have feelings for him? She didn't answer immediately, and that silence told me everything. Jessica. I don't know, she whispered. Maybe. I don't know. My chest felt like it was being compressed. How long have you felt this way? A few weeks, maybe a month. It's confusing. I love you, I do. But Drew, he makes me feel different, excited, like I'm not just going through the motions. Going through the motions, I repeated. Is that what our relationship is to you? No, that came out wrong. I just mean, we've gotten comfortable. We're in a routine. And with Drew, everything feels new. I stood up. I need you to leave. What? Not permanently, not yet. But I can't have this conversation with you tonight. I need space to think. Go stay with Sarah or your sister. Come back tomorrow and we'll figure this out. Jake, please, I said, and my voice cracked slightly. Just go. She stared at me for a long moment, then nodded. She packed a bag quickly and left. I heard the door close and sat there in the silence, wondering how my life had fallen apart in the span of 3 hours. Update 2. I didn't sleep that night. I kept replaying everything, every trip she'd taken, every late night at work, every time she'd been distant or distracted. Were there other signs I'd missed? Or was this really just an emotional affair that had started recently? The next morning, I called my best friend Marcus. He's a lawyer, pragmatic and level-headed, exactly the kind of person I needed. She admitted feelings for another guy? Marcus said after I filled him in. Yeah. Said she didn't know if it was real or just excitement. That's textbook emotional affair territory. Has she agreed to cut contact with him? We didn't get that far. I asked her to leave. Good. You need clarity before making any decisions. He paused. Do you want to salvage this? I thought about it. I don't know. Part of me still loves her. Part of me feels like I don't even know who she is anymore. Give yourself time. Don't make any permanent decisions while you're emotional. Jessica texted me around noon. Can I come get some more clothes? And we really need to talk. I replied, come by at 6. I'll be here. She showed up exactly on time. We sat at the kitchen table, the same place we'd had countless meals together, planned vacations, talked about our future. I thought about what you said, Jessica started. You're right. I should have been honest. I should have told you about Drew from the beginning. Okay, but I also think you need to understand why I didn't. You can be intense sometimes, about relationships, about us. It feels like there's no room for me to have my own life. I felt defensive anger rise. That's not fair. I've never stopped you from having friends or your own interests. Not explicitly. But you always want to know where I am, who I'm with, the location sharing, the constant check-ins. It feels suffocating. The location sharing was your idea, I said, and I check in because I care, not because I'm monitoring you. It doesn't feel that way to me. We sat in tense silence. So what do you want? I asked finally. Do you want to be with Drew? I don't know. I need time to figure out what I want. That's not how this works, I said, my voice harder than I intended. You don't get to keep me on hold while you explore your feelings for another man. Either you want to fix this relationship, which means cutting contact with Drew and working on us, or you don't. But you need to decide. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. I didn't ask to be in this situation. You created it. She looked away. I need a few days to think. Fine. Take a few days. But I need you to know that if you choose to keep seeing Drew, even as just friends, we're done. I'm not going to compete for my girlfriend's attention. You're giving me an ultimatum. I'm setting a boundary. There's a difference. She left again. This time, I felt more resigned than hurt, like I'd already started grieving the relationship. Over the next few days, I threw myself into work, took on extra projects, stayed late at the office. My coworkers noticed I was distracted, but no one pried. I was grateful for that. On the third day, Jessica texted, "Can we meet for coffee?" I've made a decision. We met at a neutral place, a busy cafe downtown, where we'd gone on our second date years ago. The irony wasn't lost on me. Jessica looked different, lighter somehow, like she'd made peace with something. I think we should break up, she said before I could even order. I felt the words like a punch, even though part of me had expected them. Okay, I care about you. I'll always care about you. But I think we've been holding on to something that ran its course. We're comfortable, but we're not passionate anymore. And I need passion. So you're choosing Drew? I'm choosing myself, she said. Whether things work out with Drew or not, I need to figure out what I want without being in this relationship. I nodded slowly. I respect that. Thank you for being honest. She looked surprised. You're not going to fight for us? Would it matter if I did? She thought about it. Probably not. Then there's your answer. We spent another 20 minutes working out logistics. Who would take what from the apartment? How we'd split our shared expenses, when she'd come get the rest of her things. It was civil, almost businesslike. The relationship that had meant everything to me ended over coffee and contract negotiations. Update 3. The next 2 weeks were strange. Jessica moved out completely. The apartment felt cavernous without her things. I'd come home from work to silence, make dinner for one, watch TV alone. My friends tried to get me to go out, but I wasn't ready for that yet. I did make one decision, though. I started seeing a therapist. Her name was Dr. Chen, and she specialized in relationship issues and life transitions. What bothers you most about what happened? She asked during our second session. The lying, I said immediately. If she'd been honest about her feelings, about Drew, we could have addressed it. Maybe we could have fixed things. Instead, she lied and let me believe everything was fine. Do you think it would have changed the outcome? I thought about it. Maybe not. But I would have had agency. I would have been able to make informed decisions about my own life. Dr. Chen nodded. Control is important to you. Is that bad? Not inherently. But when we try to control outcomes in relationships, we often end up creating the very problems we're trying to avoid. That stuck with me. About 3 weeks after the breakup, I was having drinks with Marcus when he asked, "Have you looked at Jessica's social media?" "No." "Why?" "Probably better if you don't," he said carefully. Of course, that made me immediately curious. That night, I broke my self-imposed social media blackout and checked her Instagram. The first photo was from 2 days ago. Jessica and Drew at some scenic overlook, golden hour lighting, his arm around her shoulders. The caption, "New adventures with this one heart emoji." I felt sick, not because I still wanted her, I was starting to realize I didn't, but because it confirmed what I'd suspected. She'd already been emotionally checked out of our relationship long before we ended. I'd just been the last to know. I showed the photo to Dr. Chen at our next session. "How does this make you feel?" she asked. "Used," I admitted, like I was the placeholder until she found someone better. "Do you believe that's true?" "I don't know. Maybe she didn't plan it that way, but the effect is the same. What if I told you this isn't about you at all? That her choices reflect her own needs and patterns, not your worth? That's what everyone keeps saying. It doesn't make it feel better." "Feelings are valid," Dr. Chen said, "but they're not always facts. The fact is, you were a good partner. You were honest, committed, and willing to work on things. She made different choices. That's on her." Slowly, over the next few weeks, I started to believe it. Update 4. 2 months after the breakup, something unexpected happened. I was at a work function, one of those networking events I usually avoid, when I struck up a conversation with someone from a different department. Her name was Nina. She worked in operations, and she had this sharp wit that made me actually laugh for the first time in weeks. We talked for over an hour, about work, about the city, about our shared love of terrible action movies. She asked for my number. I gave it to her. When I told Marcus about it, he was thrilled. "That's great, man. You're getting back out there. I don't know if I'm ready for anything serious." "Then don't make it serious. Just see where it goes." Nina and I went out for coffee the next week, then dinner, then a movie. It was easy in a way my relationship with Jessica never had been toward the end. There was no second guessing, no hidden agendas, just two people enjoying each other's company. I didn't tell Nina about Jessica right away, but on our 4th date she asked, "So, what's your story? Recent breakup? That obvious?" "Little bit. You have that just got out of something vibe." I told her the abbreviated version. She listened without judgment. "Sounds like she did you a favor," Nina said when I finished. "How do you figure?" "She showed you who she was before you proposed, before you got married, before you had kids. Could have been a lot worse." I'd never thought of it that way, but she was right. Things with Nina progressed naturally. We took it slow, but there was genuine connection there. She met Marcus and some of my other friends. They all approved. "She's real," Marcus said. "No games." Meanwhile, I heard through mutual friends that Jessica and Drew's relationship had imploded after about 6 weeks. Apparently, the excitement wore off once reality set in. I felt nothing when I heard that. No satisfaction, no pity. Just indifference. Final update. It's been almost 6 months since that night at the Maritime Lounge. 6 months since my relationship with Jessica ended. Looking back, I can see now that we were coasting for a while before things fell apart. We'd gotten comfortable, stopped putting in effort, stopped growing together. Jessica's betrayal was the catalyst, but the relationship probably would have ended eventually anyway. I'm still seeing Nina. We're not rushing into anything, but it feels healthy, stable. She's open about her feelings, her concerns, her needs. I'm trying to be better about not being overly controlling, about trusting without constantly needing reassurance. Dr. Chen says I'm making good progress. I ran into Jessica once, about a month ago, at a mutual friend's birthday party. It was awkward for about 30 seconds, then surprisingly normal. We made small talk, asked politely about each other's lives, then went our separate ways. She looked fine. I hope she is. I learned a lot from that relationship. I learned that trust needs to be earned and maintained, not just assumed. I learned that comfort isn't the same as compatibility. I learned that sometimes people lie not because you've done something wrong, but because they're not ready to face the truth about themselves. Most importantly, I learned that my worth isn't determined by whether someone chooses to stay or go. Jessica made her choice. I made mine. We're both moving forward. The apartment doesn't feel empty anymore. I've made it my own. New furniture, new artwork, new routines. Marcus jokes that I'm having a divorced guy renaissance, even though we were never married. Maybe he's right. I still think about that moment sometimes, walking into the lounge, seeing Jessica's face freeze when she realized I was there. It felt like catching someone in a lie, felt like winning something. But I didn't win. Neither of us did. We just ended something that had already been dying. And that's okay. Not everything is meant to last forever. Edit 1. A lot of people have asked if I ever found out what exactly happened between Jessica and Drew. From what I heard through friends, they dated for about 6 weeks before realizing they had nothing in common outside of work and initial attraction. Last I heard, they don't even work together anymore. One of them switched departments to avoid the awkwardness. Edit 2. Nina knows about this whole situation. I showed her this post, actually. She said it helped her understand where I was coming from and why I'm sometimes cautious about certain things. Communication is wild. Who knew just talking openly could make things so much easier? Edit 3. For anyone going through something similar, therapy genuinely helps. I was skeptical at first, but having someone objective to process everything with made a huge difference. Also, don't rush into the next relationship just to feel better. Take time to actually heal. Future, you will appreciate it.